There are people that can't see beyond their own nose.
To them, Elgin is simply the administrative centre for a fertile area of Scotland that's called Morayshire. But 900 years ago, this royal city was a cornerstone upon which King Alexander I created a unified kingdom. From the hostile provinces of Argyll and Cat, Galloway and Moravia, and the lesser lands of warring clans.
The palace that once overlooked the town from Lady Hill is now no more than just a quaint but intriguing scar on the landscape.
They tell a story hereabouts about this Lady Hill and an earlier castle that crowned its summit. It's said that the Almighty was so angered by the goings-on within its walls that he sent down a plague in the form of a blue cloud to settle on the fortress.
Not taken with this sight, the good folks of Elgin covered the cloud, the castle, and everyone in it in fresh earth. And again it is said, at midnight hour is heard the sound of voices talking underground, the rock of cradles, the wailing infants' cries, and nurses singing lullabies.
What the good Lord thought of later happenings in and around the royal borough can only be imagined. Being at the heart of what was recognised as the garden and granary of Scotland, Elgin and its surrounding countryside was, in the words of Cameron of Lochiel, a 17th century nobleman, where all men take their prey. Edward of England occupied the city. Alexander Stewart, the dreaded Wolf of Badenoch, burnt most of it to the ground. The Lord of the Isles made a murderous but profitable call, and so on through the centuries, up to the Jacobean tragedy at Culloden. Pillage and plunder, abetted by the ravages of time and apathy, produced a cathedral that had been recognised as the ornament of the realm, the glory of the kingdom, to a sad echo of the dawning of Scotland's golden age. The trappings of the city's former regal glory may now be little more than shadows, but the inbred spirit that made Elgin and Morayshire in general a place to be envied and coveted remains. Quieter, perhaps, but no less determined. Nowhere is that quiet determination more evident than here at Pluscarden Abbey. One of the most ancient monasteries in Scotland, Pluscarden's story is as inspiring as the building and its setting, as Father Giles explains.
Well, it was founded in 1230 by King Alexander III of the Scots for monks from France in Burgundy in the Val des Choux. And this monastery, it may seem impressive to us today, but if you consider it in comparison with other monastic ruins, it's really only a little button ben of a monastery.
What was the main cause for the ruin of the abbey?
Well, the political thing, the thing was founded from France. France and Scotland always had very close relations, as they still do. And getting from France to Scotland either meant going by sea in relatively small boats over rough sea, which is dodgy, or else going over land, which is fine as long as you're at peace with England. But if you had a war with England and France, or a war with England and Scotland, then obviously travellers were likely to have difficulties. And this was what happened regularly, so that links with France broke down, and the community had all sorts of administrative difficulties. And there's this famous fire caused by the Wolf of Badenoch, as it is thought, about 1390, same time as Elgin Cathedral was burnt. A natural disaster, so to speak.
It was fairly recently that the decision was made to restore. It was about 40 years ago, I think.
1948 they came back.
What prompted that decision?
Well, they must have been attracted by the fact that here was a monastery, a building still in relatively good nick, with the great tradition of hundreds of years of monastic life in it, in a beautiful situation, quiet, where there were no other monasteries, where it could be of help to local people. And we were offered this monastery, so we took it.
How many people are involved in restoration work here now?
Well, it depends. The digging holes, anybody can be involved in that. But the actual mason work, Brother Michael's been cutting stone under the tuition of a local mason. And then down in the glass shop, I do a bit of that. And Martin Farrelly, a local craftsman, and Brother Gilbert. Most of the work gets done by outsiders. We just haven't got the labour.
Well, Brother Michael, that's a long, hard job you're on there.
Yeah.
How long have you been a mason?
Well, I started 2 years ago, but only sort of 2 or 3 hours a week, so that adds up to a couple of months, I think.
Where does the instruction come from?
There's a local mason who comes in to do most of the stonework, and I've sort of tagged along with him and learned how to do it by watching, really, and he's given me quite a lot of help. That's the...
I'll bet you never thought when you become a monk that you would in fact become a mason.
No, it was quite a surprise, actually. It was just on the morning I started, I was told that was, I've got a new job for you today, and go down and learn how to cut stones.
Well, Father Giles, that was Brother Michael there. A youngest monk, surely, to be practicing that sort of art.
Oh, aye, yes, indeed.
What did the stonework be used for that he was working on there?
It's for the new East Cloister, which was rebuilding to replace the old one, which has got holes in the roof and cracks in the walls. It's been temporary for 30 years, supposed to have been for 10 years, so it doesn't do anybody anything.
Yeah. You mentioned the stained glass to me before. We're going to see it now.
That's right, that's Brother Gilbert. He's been at that, 30 years now. Father Ninian taught him. Father Ninian died last year. And Father Ninian did his at the Glasgow School of Art. And before that, there was Father Theodore, and before that, there was Dom Asaph. So we've got a tradition going back,
Very specialised too, isn't it?
It is.
Well, Brother Gilbert, you're very busy there just now.
Yeah.
You're mapping out your course, as it were.
Yeah, well, he's cutting the glass and I'm choosing it.
I see you're getting so good at the game that you're commissioned by other churches. So does that mean that it's difficult for you to get the exact colour that the church requests?
It's awfully difficult, yeah.
What do you do to get over that, then?
Well, so often you send in a colour sketch to the customer, you know, and they'll say, I don't like reds, I like greens. And so you go through all your glass in the glass shop, you see, and trying to find greens, and nothing comes up to it, so you send to the glass makers.
What other materials apart from glass goes in?
For this kind of window, it's lead canes and what they call smudge. It's a very liquid putty. And it runs in underneath the lead and out the other side at the back, and then gradually dries out and becomes solid. That gives you a nice stiff window.
How do you know that you've got the right image?
Well, it's always a risk. The safest thing to do is to go out on the site and study it thoroughly, you know, before you even make a start. If there's trees, buildings, and that sort of thing opposite the window, then you must glaze all your colours lightly, delicate tints and things, because the buildings and trees tend to darken the glass. If it's against the skyline, you have to glaze fairly rich, dark colours, because when the highlight pierces through, it'll pale them all off.
simple monastic life of love of God and neighbour is what sustains this restoration. Without it, it would be meaningless.
My move from the tranquility of Plusgarden Abbey to this old water mill is quite a natural step, really. The mill that occupied this site in the 13th century provided a fair bit of income for the founders of Plusgarden. And it's a compliment to the crafts that we witnessed earlier, as traditional milling has been restarted here.
Well, they can trace the history back to about 1230. It was royal mills at that time, and the king granted the charter of the mills to the monks of Plusgarden when they built the abbey. Now, they had it up to about the time of the Reformation. And about 1560, the last prior died, and the lands and the mills reverted back to the landowners, who was a Lord Seaton.
It's a fascinating place in there, the ingenious machinery. Does it take a lot to maintain it?
Not a lot, Chief. No. A little bit of oil. Of course, you see it's mostly wooden bushes and iron shafts.
The production of this cloth began nearly 200 years ago. To be more accurate, it was in 1798, and it wasn't this precise length of cloth, but one that was good enough to establish its maker, one Alexander Johnston, amongst those at the centre of wool weaving trade. John Harrison, today's chairman of the company that Alec Johnston started, told me how it happened.
Well, this started as a country mill making cloth for the local people. Farmers would bring their wool in here, and it was water-powered in the original days, and local wool was obviously brought in, spun and woven into tweed. Good, heavy, solid stuff.
What is it about Scottish wool and cloths that attract the international buyer?
Difficult to say. I suppose because it's very soft, of fine quality, hopefully nicely coloured too. I mean, we do a lot of design work here.
How easy or difficult is it to adapt to new patterns or designs for the international buyer?
Well, providing we have a constant dialogue with our customers, they will give us ideas, we show them things, and between us, we work something out.
As the mill manager, Jack McGrath is at the sharp end. He enjoys the responsibility not only for meeting deadlines, but also for ensuring that the cloth designer's ideas are realised. Hello, Jack.
Hello, how are you doing?
A fair bit of noise for me in here today, but you'll be well used to it, are you?
You get accustomed to it, you've got to.
Oh, I'll bet you have. This is an early process we're looking at just now, is it?
This is carding. Basically the conversion of the loose fibre into usable strands of wool.
How many varieties of wool do you actually use, Jack?
We use quite a lot of different varieties, like Shetland, Cheviot, Australian merino, Australian lamb's wool, and then you go into the hairs, like what we use, cashmere, vicuna, guanaco. We've even used mink mixed with cashmere, the short mink hair. We specialise in that sort of fibres.
So even a wee short mink hairs get into this process too?
And mixed with cashmere, yes. Aye. Makes a lovely finished cloth.
What excites you yet about the whole industry?
It's a daily, well, it excites me that it's a daily fight to keep up with the competitors, to be above them, to try and produce the finest yarn you can. We're looking for perfect yarn. We'll never get it, but we've got to keep trying for it.
And this is a sport that keeps
and
you
that
going.
keeps you going every day, just inspiration.
I've seen this process now. Do you mind if I just have a wee look round and see what's happening elsewhere?
Feel free.
Well done, Bill. What about the group you have with you today? Who are they now?
Well, it's a small representation of the junior section of the Elgin Spain Rail Society.
How great is the interest for fiddle music in this area right now?
Well, it's very strong. It relies very much on, I think, the local Spain Rail Society here to keep fostering the traditional music, and also to some extent, just along the road on the west side, the Forest Fiddle and Accordion Club. And to the east side, of course, you also have the Keith Fiddle and Accordion Club. So in this area, it's pretty strong.
Now, I'm off to Ernie Sherritt now to have a taste of a favourite dram. Have you any kind of tune that puts spring into my step as I leave you now?
How does Campbellton Loch suit you, Robbie?
Well, that would be perfect, I think. But that's not the right name, is it?
No, indeed, no. To the initiated out there, it's a Glendalough Highlander. There's a pipe march called the Glendalough Highlander.
So this is where it all starts, Ernie.
This is where it starts, Robbie, with the beautiful water. Would you like to taste it?
Ah, I wouldn't mind. Lovely and clear. Cheers.
Cheers.
Do you reckon this is what attracted the brothers Grant here way back about 100 years ago?
Well, I'm quite sure it is, Robbie, because they had been farming previous to 1840 for 3 years at Dunleith, and during that time been looking round for an ideal spot to start a distillery. And this is when this became available for purchase. They bought it and started up in 1840.
Ernie, when was the first commercial distillery legally licensed?
That was in 1824, when one of the distilleries now in our group was licensed.
Let's take it then from the water we saw there just now to the bottle. What takes place in between?
Well, there's the three processes, Robbie. There's the mashing, the fermentation, the distillation. The mashing being grinding the malt into grist mixed with hot water to extract the sugar. The worts, as it's now known, is put into washbacks where yeast is added. It ferments for 40 hours. And then it's ready for distillation. And first of all, in the wash still, which produces a weak whiskey known as low wines, which is distilled again, and the middle cut of that is collected as whiskey.
Well then, how long before I can drink this stuff?
Well, it's got to be 3 years at least before it becomes Scotch whiskey. Most firms now are paying a lot of attention to the importance of
the good quality casks into which whiskey is filled.
Well, speaking about good quality, I like a good single malt, but blends have been very, very popular. How should this be?
Blended whiskey, Robbie, is a mixture of malt and grain. The grain whiskey matures much quicker, is much cheaper to produce. So the mixture, various recipes, means that you're having a whiskey which is much cheaper and in most cases much lighter to the palate.
As a distillery manager, your job is to keep as much whiskey as you can in the still until it's time to sell it. Now, what's the most ingenious method you've discovered of getting that whiskey kind of out of the way before it should be?
Well, there's lots of ingenious methods, Robbie, but one of the most ingenious was when one of the workmen was found pumping the dip rod of the whiskey vessel and collecting the spillage with a sponge and then wringing it into a glass for his dram.
Oh, yeah, but that's spillage, that's nature.
Ah, well, it was taking it from a vessel, so I'm afraid he had to be severely dealt with. But that's just one of the tricks that the old boys get up to in the distilleries in this area.
There's not much characters nowadays, eh?
No, Robbie, unfortunately, there's not.
Well, Ernie, you've told me everything I want to know. Given the right ingredients, I think I could make this stuff myself.
Oh, yes, Robbie, you could make it. Anybody could make it with the right equipment and stuff, but I'm quite sure you couldn't make stuff like what I've got for you here. You fancy a dram?
Oh, fancy a dram if you've got a hip flask or something.
No, I've got something better than that. Come on to see this.
This is a way out mile for anywhere if you've got a secret still or something.
No, I've got something even better than that, Robbie.
A safe by the Burnside, Ernie. What's the story behind this little lot?
Well, this safe, Robbie, which is well over 100 years old, was used by the distillery owner to entertain his after-dinner guests.
And I'm the guest today, then. I didn't expect the whiskey to be 100 years old, but I expect it to be a nice, cool dram.
It's a fine dram, Robbie, in the fine surroundings we've got here. I'm quite sure you'll enjoy it.
Sure I will. Cheers to you.
Cheers. All the best.
Well, I'm off now. I'll leave you to look around in the company of Bill Bryan, the Golden Fiddle champion. And he's going to be playing Neil Gow's Farewell to Whiskey. Well, I've met lots of interesting people and I've had exciting adventures much enjoyed whilst out and about, but I never dreamed I would find myself about to take the air in a glider. That is until Trevor Armstrong made me an offer I couldn't refuse. Or was it the dram of Ernie Sherritt still taking effect? Trevor, what attracted you to this sport, which to me is practically going on a wing and a prayer?
Oh, Robbie, it's not, no, it's not going on a wing and a prayer. Remember that a glider is designed to fly without an engine. It's a very strong piece of machinery. It has no engine, certainly, but it's designed to fly without an engine, so it's not a wing and a prayer by any means.
Well, you're making me feel stronger already, I think.
Do you want to have a go?
Well, yeah, I've stalled long enough, haven't I?
You have. Come on.
Okay,
go.
right.
Open. Close.
Well, this is it then, if only my mother could see me now. I would normally finish up by saying, on the heat of the road, but in this case, it's up, up and away. On we go, Trevor. Ta-ta the new.
Thank you.